Ready?
I think it's going.
Hey, we look like we're going. Hello? Hello, YouTube.
Wait a second. It's hard to know anymore.
There we are.
Okay.
Yep.
You don't know when it actually starts?
Yeah, it's hard to tell when it actually starts, all these fits and starts. And
Not
just
touch this.
don't touch that, yeah. This is kind of a spontaneous live stream we decided to do.
Trying to figure out how to live stream these.
Yeah, really, we're trying to do a better job at live streaming. And 4 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon, and we decided we'd give this a shot since we were sitting here in the room with the lights and everything. And so what we wanted to do today is to answer some questions that came up on YouTube. As long as we're here, as long as it's working, let's
I'm somewhat in frame at least. Okay, so these are questions that people submitted via a message to GP that I don't think we even realized were there. So for future reference, that's not the best way to reach him. A comment is definitely better.
Yeah, comment or you can. Yeah, there's a place where you can send questions at Satsang with G too. Ends up getting to me.
So, hi dear GP, I wonder if one can be drunk, high, or suffering from dementia and experience awakening at the same time. By the way, I love your videos. Best wishes.
Oh, what an interesting question. Nothing gets in the way of awakening. So don't think... look, we're always in the altered state of consciousness, right? Awakening is the real consciousness. So, even if you think you're not awake, that's an altered state of consciousness. So whether it be drugs or alcohol or whatever it might be, the truth is very powerful. It can penetrate. If there's an openness in the heart, it gets through, despite what the experience is. Obviously we cultivate meditation, we cultivate different kinds of behaviors, compassion, and all that kind of stuff. It's not, awakening doesn't have a cause, right? It's not you do step 1 through 8, and when you get to step 8, if you do it just right, bam, the awakening takes place. If that was the case, you could also lose it, because if it had a cause, it would also have a beginning. It would also have an end. So nothing gets in the way of it, nothing whatsoever. The only thing that matters is you simply paying attention. Are you paying attention to you paying attention? Are you paying attention to your own inner awareness? You're always aware of all the thoughts, you're aware of the ideas, you're aware of the concepts, you're aware of the stuff all the ideas you have about yourself especially. But if you put your attention on that which is aware of those ideas, that is the awakening, right? And it's only when you realize that that is who you are and not just an experience you're having is when you experience awakening. It's really, really that simple. So the short answer is no, nothing can interfere with it. The only reason it becomes obscure is because of where our attention is going. If awakening was a state of mind or a state of consciousness, then yeah, it would. You wouldn't be able to reach it. You wouldn't be able to reach it, if you would, drank 3 glasses of wine. But then again, you could reach it. Maybe, the 4th glass will actually make you enlightened. If they had that kind of a cause and effect, then, we should be all just trying everything every combination we possibly can. And obviously, there are some things like, ayahuasca. I know a lot of people have done ayahuasca journeys that create an environment within a consciousness that have extraordinary experiences. It actually shuts down part of the resistant defensive parts of your brain. But that too is only temporary, because the awakening is the awareness of you being aware. It's really that simple. And you realize that the awareness of being aware and you are one and the same. And that awareness then is the awakening. Boy, it's so subtle that no, you're fine. you're fine. Now, I would be I would invite you to inquire as to what it is within you that wants to be satisfied, that would reach out for some substance. It's not that it's all bad. It's like, I'm not saying don't have a glass of wine with your dinner, or don't have a beer with friends. I mean, there's two schools of thought in Zen. In Zen, I mean, the Tibetan, of course, you can't even touch a woman, let alone an alcoholic drink in the Tibetan tradition. But in Zen, there's some schools that are celibate, and they are very self-denying, and others you get drunk with them. So it really doesn't have anything to do with that. So don't make that an issue for yourself. Just be really clear about why you do anything, and if you're keeping it innocent, it's going to be innocent. If you're trying to compensate for something, that's going to get in the way of you simply being happy. And so I would urge you to take a look at that. You got something you want to add to that?
Not to that, no, for sure. It's all good. So, hi, Mr. Walsh. I'll leave out the name just in case they didn't know this was going to be on a video. I love the way you do tapping. Happy I found you. I want to ask a big favor. I have 2 questions. I'm doing some of your videos and found myself stuck in the resistance that I feel. For example, money is a big issue for me right now, and I have so much resistance that I can feel it in my cervix, stomach, chest, and lately I feel like a nasal allergy. I feel like I'm going to sneeze, but nothing happens. I feel like something very heavy in my lower belly and around my belly button. I don't know how to address this issue. Would you help me? Can you tell me how to talk to these guys? Ha. Yeah.
Talk to these guys. Ha. Yeah. Okay. I know Evan's going to weigh in on this one. But the first thing I want to say is, don't assume you know what it is, right? Mm-hmm. Get your mind out of it. You want to talk to them? Talk to them, right? Don't talk about talking to them. If you want to talk to a friend, you talk to the friend, right? You don't go to another friend and you talk about them, right? Well, if you do, that's a lot of people do that. But if you want to have an intimate conversation, you have the intimate conversation, and then if you're really going to have an intimate conversation, you don't start a conversation with somebody assuming you know what they're going to say and ready with your answer. That's not that's not intimacy. Nobody feels close. I mean, there's an openness, right? I mean, what are they in every relationship course you can possibly take? The number one thing is communicating clearly and listening to the other one and what they have to say, not presuming you know what they're going to say. So you're getting all these different energies. Great. Go directly to the energy, that whatever the one is the most dominant, and just put your attention there. Right? And if this is new to you, it can feel a little bit odd because your mind's going to want to interpret it and come up with an answer very quickly. The key here is, don't come up with an answer. You don't have the answer. Your mind doesn't have it, okay? Because the answer isn't intellectual. It's energetic. The answer is in the distressed energy. And if you can see that, then you can put your attention there fully and really listen, knowing that you really don't know what it has to say and you really want to know. Then, if you do something like EFT, it isn't trying to get that to be quiet or to solve a problem. The way I use EFT is that is a physical way to communicate to the system that it's safe, because that's what it does. The tapping in these various points literally sends a message to the limbic brain that says, you're safe. And that's the new bit of information. When the energy that is in it, whatever state it's in, gets the message that it's safe, something very beautiful begins to happen. It's allowed to speak. I mean, you don't speak if you don't feel safe. Right? If you think what you're going to say is going to be corrected, or no, that's not what, this is what it's supposed to be, or not listened to at all. So I know he's got some stuff to say about
sure.
that. So.
Well, yeah. Notice the first assumption is that you're stuck because these feelings are here. Right? That's very common, and anything that just doesn't feel great or doesn't feel like free flowing in some way, we immediately go, this is a resistance. And then whatever you've learned about resistance, which is really just a label on these bunch of feelings you're having.
Yeah.
Depending on which school you come from, if any, it's going to be, well, resistance means I do this, I got to push through it, or I have to do some process to get rid of it, or whatever that is, right? If you're going to just invite it to be there, which inner reconciliation is the name of the process that we use, the first thing is to invite. And the word invite we use because it's not just like tolerate, or it's not let yourself feel it so that you can hurry up and get to the part where it goes away. It's to actually invite that something is responding, right? If how did it start? You're doing a video and you feel, you go into the subject of money and you feel this stuff happen, right? Just notice that's kind of amazing in and of itself. And if you just forget about the word resistance for a minute, and just go, okay, these reactions are taking place. What's that all about? Right? As soon as you do that, you're much more open space for things to kind of unfold. And so that's a lot more of what it means to talk to something. Usually people that approach inner reconciliation have a lot of background. That means I think about money and these feelings come up. So I know what that's resistance, and how do I get rid of that resistance, and what's the process to get rid of it, right? If you just observe that these sensations are there and you do welcome them up, then you are talking to them. That's what we mean by it. Because as soon as it's like, what's the right thing to say to it to make it do some particular thing I have in mind? Because the other thing, don't take our word for it, but if you listen, if these things do have an objection to you having money, they're not random or without cause. Right. They're based on some response that feels like this, from my perspective, whatever that perspective is, it would be bad if you had this. So if you actually listen to it, there's a logic in it usually. And if you're just trying to discount it because, no, shut up because I want my money, you're gonna remain locked horns. You're gonna be constantly doing whatever process to try to get through that. Meanwhile, it's a valid thing that's happening, and all you have to do is listen to it and let it say what it has to say, and drop your idea of what it is. We can't emphasize that enough, because again, you're coming at it from the context that it's resistance and it's the problem. Right? So that's always what this is wrapped in, and it's quite simple to just forget its resistance and just say, what is this?
The real problem is always a conflict. It's a conflict between what you can see that you want or need, and you're okay with that, this would be a really good thing, and some energy inside of you that doesn't think that's a good idea. And if we take the approach that it's wrong and I'm right, you've created the conflict. But if it's really a defensive posture, maybe put in place by some kind of trauma or some kind of education that it got consistently, it's not going to abandon that position. It's simply not going to do it because it's trying to keep you safe. So you can't make it go away. So that's where you get this irresistible, immovable object meets an irresistible force. So what has to happen? Well, you've got to go into the middle. You have to stop taking sides. You have to see that, okay, part of me really, really wants this. Another part of me really doesn't want this. Got it. I can't get either one of those to shut up. So I'm just going to sit in the middle and I'm going to listen to both. Now you're in the place of the mediator, a place I like to call the peacemaker. You're not taking sides. And now all the energy is free to speak, including the desire, because oftentimes I want more money is really, it's masking something else. There's something else you actually want that you can't admit to, and so you say, I want more money. So that needs to mature too. The desire for something has got to also develop and purify till it gets closer to what the real thing is. And at the same time, the resistant energy has to be satisfied that it's safe for that to happen. This is how you reconcile. That's why we call it inner reconciliation.
And notice that it might sound like, oh, it's all these different things that have to agree, and what might it mean? You don't have to worry about any of that.
Yeah.
When you just stop labeling it, it's, if I meet GP for the first time and I'm like, well, okay, he's a white guy, he's like this, and he's like this, and he's like this, I'm never really gonna know what he is. And if I'm like, well, and if depending on the relationship, if I think he's stopping me from getting somewhere, right? If I consider him an obstacle before I really know for sure, like maybe he's at a higher position in the company I work for, so immediately, okay, he's an asshole, and whatever I think about it, right? All of that's coloring. If I just go, here's this person in front of me, I don't really actually know anything about them at all, except the superficial observation of, physical appearance and maybe the energy I feel around them. But even that, I don't assume that I feel a certain energy, so that means he's that way, right? You just drop that, and then it just becomes, it's natural that you would uncover, you'd get to know him a little better than if you assume you know about him. So it's not this thing of like, you try to decode it.
Right.
It's what happens when you're just naturally
it's
curious.
Not analytical.
And you drop your labels.
Yeah, you're just present. You recognize both are important, and you listen to both.
And the second part of the question, it says, due to my economic situation, I'm developing some skin problems. White spots in my hand. The doctor says it's vitiligo. Looking for information. The cause could be emotional problems, which I know that's my case. So, doing some EFT, not having a lot of results. I'd say it's the same answer here, where there's already the assumption, you already know that this is happening because your financial situation, and that's kind of impossible to actually know. It's super logical. It might make sense. This is the cause of my stress.
And that's a common explanation.
Yeah, and it does make sense. Money is causing me stress. I read that, probably on the internet, that this is a result of stress. Therefore, money is why I have this thing going on in my skin. Therefore, if I fix my money problem, right, it's got so much overhead on it that your body doesn't have a chance for you to just be with it and go, what do we need here? And you'll never know what the answer is going to be to that. It's so much deeper than 10 internets combined. It will give you. I don't want to imply that like you do this and all physical ailments go away. I think that's irresponsible. But you're going to get more on the right track than just assuming A plus B is this. That's just very stressful.
Yeah, notice your mind has just made a connection where there may not be one, right? So you're feeling stressed out about your economics, and this is happening. So your mind, which hates a vacuum, makes a connection. Oh, they're related. They may not be. It could be, you could have developed an allergy to kombucha or something. You don't know what it is. And if you start from the position you don't know what it is, you're at the playing field is now completely level. You can say, okay, well, what is it? And you can go to the very same energy, go right into the body, into the feeling, and say, what do you need? And maybe it is stress. And if you are stressed, EFT is really good at helping relieving the stress.
But very different than I'm doing EFT to get rid of this thing.
Well, she said it. I'm not getting any results, right? So you're very much focused on, you think the solution is for this thing to go away. Remember, the body created that for a reason too. So it's communicating something, right? Our minds, we are so arrogant. we think, oh, I know what that is. Your mind was the last guy to this party, right? And it's not nearly as fast or as complex as the body is and what it's doing. So you just listen. Okay, what do I actually need? And really pay attention. Pay attention to what the way you do things. You can pay attention to the way the things you eat. You could just keep checking in with your body with that question. What do you need right now? What do you need right now? And it will also give you the right way, the most effective way to alleviate the stress. Maybe it's more exercise, Maybe it's taking breaks more often. I'm not suggesting any of these, right? What I'm saying is that to assume that this problem and the money problem, the physical problem, and stress are all related is an assumption that, if you look really closely, is not provable, and may very well, it might be the case, but it's equally possible that it isn't. And just notice, as I'm saying that, how much freer it feels to be able to approach this with an open heart and an open mind. And not, I got to get something done. I got to get something done. I'm failing at doing this. I'm tapping until I've got dents on my face and I'm not getting any results. See how tense that is, how pressured that is, when it's just, gee, I don't really know. So why don't I tap to help myself know, to help the body explain itself to me? It's a very different approach. You know, what does the body need? Okay, body likes this. Okay, good. So there it is. What do you need? And it just brings fresh energy.
So we have some more, but we have time for one more.
Okay.
We'll do another one of these because there's one or two here that could be
Could
full
go on.
videos on their own. One's a request for a video, so if you're watching this, let you know. So, one person asked about the bass guitar in the videos. That's mine. GP doesn't play bass. I do for a living.
Yes.
So.
And there's actually one there,
Yeah.
one there, one there, one there, and there's another one in another room, and I don't know if he's ordered it yet, but there's another one on the way. So
I'm not a collector. I actually need them
he
for
actually
different
plays
types
them.
of gigs.
He actually plays them all. So yeah, it's not me, but it does make a nice background, doesn't it?
It does look cool.
Yeah, it does look great.
Picture train next to it.
Very
It's also
cool.
very good. So the last one for now. Hi, I'm an actress here in Los Angeles. I work a lot, and I know it's all to do with the energy work I'm constantly focused on. It's pilot season, and I want to come in full throttle and reach new levels. I have a feeling we're seeing this after pilot season. Like I said, we didn't know these were coming in.
Yeah, sorry
But
about that.
do you have any advice or tips on as to what I can do? Hope to hear from you soon.
This is an interesting one, and the reason I say it's interesting is because it is so natural for us to want to evolve and grow. As a matter of fact, it's kind of essential. I mean, when you arrive at a certain place, before you even get there, you can see the next place, right? That's the nature. That's the beauty of human creativity. That's the beauty of the human spirit. My only caution is don't turn this into a mission that it's going to be pass fail. Let it be a love. If you love what you're doing, and you love doing it, and you love everything about it, then that love is simply wanting to grow. It wants to express itself more, as it wants to have greater opportunities to do that. That's very different than the cheap substitute, which is trying to hit a new level of accomplishment, which is usually egoic in nature. So I would just say, the tip is love what you're doing. And I know, because I'm not a professional musician, I was at one time, and I started playing music when I was 5. And I know how difficult it is to maintain the love of what you're doing and the passion and just the spontaneity of it, trying to make a living at it and trying to be seen, and it's all the business parts of it. To see them both as different and not let the two of them merge gives them first a sense of there being very, very distinct energies. Now, when they're distinct energies, you can reconcile them without losing the distinction, right? It's when they become confused that we become confused, right? Then our energy becomes confused, and things can not work, and some things work really well, and other things don't work at all. So the desire, I would just cherish that desire to be better and better and better at your craft, and let that be permanent, not just pilot time. Now, I understand that pilot time is very important in your industry. A lot of opportunity. It could be your own show, right? Regular on it. I mean, it's a big deal. I get that, which is why it's got a sense of importance to it. But it's not as important as you and just the basic love and wholeheartedness that goes into the art. I know he can have say some things about this as well.
Yeah, I mean it's great that it's going well.
It's an uptown problem.
I work a lot, which I'm thankful for as a musician. I'm not famous. I'm not like the A-list bass player in the world by any stretch of the imagination, but I do work, and I am able to sing
all the time.
So I am able to sustain myself. The only thing that just jumped out to me a little bit, just because we were talking about it so much with the last couple questions, is just even the assumption that it's because of all the energy work you're doing.
Yeah.
That, as healthy as that is, it's certainly not a bad thing. But I've seen this with people who get really into, because we work closely with a lot of people who are into our stuff, for example, so we see it firsthand. It is also possible to get into it's because it's all energy, or because it's all about what I believe. I just got to work harder on that, and sometimes that can put you in a particular position where if you really just relax and just sort of say, "What do I need?" There may be a time that comes up where it's like your acting is where it needs to be. You've got all the skill you need to work. You probably have more than enough skill. And as far as TV pilots, it doesn't strike me as being the best actors in the world all the time. It's got to do with a lot more other things. Yeah. So it might just sort of come to you that maybe what's needed right now
This was the pilot for The Sopranos.
Right, exactly. What's needed right now is more just straight up business work.
Yeah.
I mean, it may come to you that my energy's okay right now. It's not about doing more energy work. So don't even get attached to it being because you're doing all this energy work. You could get really into the energy work. It feels good. Sorry, I just saw that there are actually people here typing to us, which isn't showing up there.
It's not showing thing.
So
okay.
I got a little distracted there. But yeah, just don't necessarily even attach to the energy work. Let the energy work start as just question what's needed.
One of the things I like to point out, and I get to it in the inner reconciliation training, and I'll mention it beforehand too. Self-help, inner work, energy work isn't supposed to be a full-time, lifetime job, right? There's an end game, and the end game is inner harmony. And once there's an inner harmony, and your the inner conflicts are gone because you don't have any arguments with your own energy system, you don't need any more work. There is an end to this. For most people, the self-help is a treadmill. It just keeps going on, and there's one thing after another, and one thing after another. With inner reconciliation, that's not the case. We want to go to the place where we are so naturally in harmony with ourselves that when things come up, it doesn't create inner conflict because we're totally accepting of life the way it is. So, and there's a very subtle danger in there that when something goes wrong in your life, you say, "Oh, I must not have done the work. I must not have done my energy work." It's not true. It is not true, but that's the way the mind likes to grab onto things. So, I mean, if you've seen any of the stuff that I do, you'll hear me say 1,000 times, you're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you, right? The only real energy work is coming to the realization that there's never been anything wrong with you and that everything going on is completely and totally natural. That's the end of inner conflict. That's the end of suffering. So I just wanted to throw that out there. It's really it's about you. You are the energy. You are the point of this entire thing. Your happiness is the point of this entire thing. And just let that happiness guide you.
Great. Some questions came in. Sorry, everyone. We just did this spontaneously, and speaking of working, I actually have a gig to get to shortly. There are people saying you can't leave a comment while the video is live. I'm hoping that's some setting we can set. But if when we stop this in a couple minutes, if you can leave it as a comment, we'll see it. Because we do see the comments on other videos. We're able to see those.
It's not showing up?
Well, it shows up in the chat, but I don't know if the chat stays.
The comments. Got it, the comments.
I don't know if the chat things turn into comments. I don't think they do. I just saw the last comment here was, how does the mind create so many amazing things in the world if it's the least important part and the last to the party? Well, it's not that it's the least important. It's the last to the party. We'll just illustrate it for you real quick as far as what last to the party means. There's a feeling of, there's just a feeling. Right? Something wells up, it moves, it's felt in the body, there's an experience there. The mind, it gets to the conscious mind, and this is like science, it's not some spiritual woo-woo thing. It's you can observe it happen in yourself by just closing your eyes and watching the process if you meditate at all. but it's also pretty much verifiable in a lab, I think. I'm not a scientist, but I'm pretty sure
it has been.
This has been quite extensively proven that the things happen, then the mind labels it after the fact. And so the mind will go, I feel inspired. That's a descriptive label of just a bunch of stuff, right? It's a very subtle energy, and there's creativity behind it. There's all these nuanced things in the body, and where did the inspiration come from? Who knows, right? But the mind interprets all of that and goes, I'm inspired. Or all of this functioning, GP uses this analogy a lot, of 100 trillion cells, and goes, the body, so that it can form connections and make things. And then it gets, the mind's ability to do that is used in this creative process just as much as anything else. But when you give all the authority to the label, all the energy gets shut down.
Yeah.
If it's like, okay, I have this idea to do this thing, doing this thing is the answer, and now you're no longer listening to all this energy that's live and constantly evolving. This is how people get stuck. You get stuck in ideas. You get stuck in what worked yesterday. You get stuck in what you read from somebody that was good, maybe even worked for you a month ago. And now you're locked in the concept. And really, a lot of very successful and creative people are constantly evolving things. And the mind is describing it after the fact, or the mind markets the idea in a sexy way.
Yes. Yeah, the mind hasn't been the actual thing that has created all the wonderful things. It's been the vehicle through which it has been implemented. But if you can look at yourself, look at any creative idea that's come to you, and if you trace it back, really see if you can find where it came from. You can't find yourself making it. You can't find yourself dreaming it up. You can't really find an origin to it. There's this spontaneous event. It's like this virgin birth took place, and you recognized the value of it. All of that happened very spontaneously. And recognizing the value of it, recognizing the importance of it or significance or beauty of it, whatever it is, suddenly got the energy of your attention, and that attention, of course, is what makes things begin to take form. And then this idea is more important than this idea, so it's getting more of your attention, that energy, it begins to grow, and this is how things happen. When the mind gets stuck in a particular view of things is where the problem is, because nothing new can get into it. And that's when stuff gets shut down. And we see the example of that going on in the world as well. Fundamentalism and racism, and those all the mind getting stuck in a position and not feeling any kind of freedom to be able to question its own assumptions and enjoy a completely different way of seeing things. So I wish I had the time to. It takes a very, very long time to explain the entire process from beginning to end, so you can see where it happens. It's just when the mind gets, like anything else, part of your body, when the mind gets stuck in a position, it gets stuck, right? It's no longer creative. It's a stuck wheel. It can't move, and so that ability to not be so vigorously holding on to a position and always be willing to question. In Buddhism, they call it the great doubt. Doubt everything. And it doesn't mean you go, no, I don't know if it is. It's, we're always taking a position, but never make any position permanent. Never position is fixed. Positions come and go. They change all the time. If you do that, you find your mind becomes very flexible. And the creativity now has a very fertile ground in which it can grow. And now the mind's capacity for expression, for description, for articulation, it gets liberated. That becomes part of the deal. In Buddhism, they actually refer to that when the mind that happens as the great perfect mirror mind. Because now it's the vehicle of manifestation. So hope that answers the
yeah, the mind works better. When it's not locked in anywhere, when it's free to flow.
And notice how you feel, right? When you realize, that was an assumption I had and it's not really true. Notice the feeling of expansiveness that takes place. You can feel it in the whole body. So it was last of the party evolutionarily as well, right? So and it's the slowest, right? It is meant for contemplation. It is meant for self-examination. It is not, it's not meant to, to run from the bear, right? There's other parts of you that can do that. I mean, if we had to rely on your mind, do I run or do I not run? You'd be dead. I mean, it's just too slow. It doesn't require deliberation. But when it does, that's when you begin to experience the real power of it.
Yeah. When your mind is taking a back seat, what's possible? Everything is possible.
Yeah.
The mind simply does what it needs to do.
When I talk about the mind, there's different ways of looking at it. But what I'm usually talking about is the view of the world, the story we have about the world, believed as if it was true. That becomes the model through which we experience, through which we filter experience, and it governs our behavior. As long as we believe that our view of things is the true view, we will behave accordingly. So so getting the mind to take a back seat is what it really means is you liberate the mind from its attachment to its particular story. And if you see that everything is a story, that everything is temporary, every Buddha even said his teachings were temporary, right? So it's always just whatever needs to be here now, and that liberates the mind. And now you discover a completely different aspect of mind, which doesn't have to take a backseat. It's an active participant bringing its particular flavor to the party. But it doesn't become more important than your feelings or more important than your heart, and that actually begins to balance. The energy of heart and mind begins to balance. In fact, in the Asian languages, the symbol for heart and the symbol for mind is the same symbol. They don't have the same kind of distinction we have in the West. So.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thank you all.
If anyone knows a good camera for live streaming, that's part of what we're messing around with this, trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Our situation here is not ideal. We want to get something better, and we've seen some great videos out there. We're researching that now. So if anyone knows a good hookup for live streaming in terms of the actual camera itself, I think our audio was okay.
Yeah.
This is nice and simple. This was not simple, nor is it particularly
This
amazing.
was easy. Set up, turn it on, go.
We want a camera version of that.
Yes.
So there's more questions that some people asked today, and there were ones we didn't get to. So we'll do this again. And the easier our live streaming setup gets, the more often we'll do this. So thanks a lot.
Thank you all.
I'm going to have to climb over here to actually stop this. So you can entertain them with something while I do that.
No, thank you all. This was very, very spontaneous.
Where to go for the website or something?
I was delighted that people showed up. We were just wanted to answer the questions that we didn't even know we had. So if you want to learn more about us, you can actually go to mhicourses.com and you'll see a whole page full of the courses that we offer, and many of them are free. So
InnerReconciliation.com has a free course on
that's right. InnerReconciliation.com. You can register and get a free 2-hour workshop. It's not just a nice one-page report in a PDF. It's a 2-hour extensive workshop, and I will answer questions from it as well, all about inner reconciliation. So InnerReconciliation.com or mhicourses.com, whichever you prefer.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.